Welcome to the yoga method. Our restorative practice today will focus on opening the hips, but let's begin as always by coming into just a seated position, elevated on a cushion on a block. And if it's possible for you to have a tennis ball or a rubber massage ball handy, we'll do a little bit of self-treatment at the end of our practice. But let's begin in Sukhasana, easy cross leg, and allowing the eyes to close. Allowing the mind, the body, and the spirit to become aligned and harnessed by our breath. So breathing in and out through the nose only. And just seeing how much we can slow the breath. Harnessing the control of the breath to really allow our physiology to come back into tranquility. So cultivating a sense of rest and relaxation even while we are moving through our stretches together. And as we pause at the beginning of our practice, perhaps setting an intention, a word, a value, a virtue, a quality, a characteristic that you are striving to embody more fully, more consistently. At the same time, celebrating our humanness, our imperfections, perfectly imperfect. And when you are ready, just opening the windows of your eyes. And we begin in Sukhasana with our right leg in front of the left. And our first hip opening is just to begin to explore gentle sways from side to side. The body loves movement. And the quickest way often to quiet the mind is to invite just some gentle movement into the body. And through the avenue of movement, we also begin to really know our bodies in a deeper way. Know thyself. To thy own self be true. Let's take one more gentle sway to the left and then back to the right. And then as we return to the midline, let's pause here. So you might be sitting tall, feeling sensation in the back of the pelvis. You might be able to just place your hands on the floor in front. Or if it feels good, lowering to your block, to your cushion, to your forearms. And only if the space in the back of the body will allow, please feel free to lengthen the arms any amount as you bow your head towards your hearts. This gesture of surrender. As we press into the hands to really glue and anchor the pelvis level, and then deliberately flooding the breath into the back of the pelvis, into our lower back, as well as our shoulder blades too. Just one more full deep breath, please. And only when the time is right for you, core is on gently to support us as we ease our way back up and out of the shape. Take your hands behind you and please bring your feet in front. So opening front of pelvis, just to counterbalance what we did with the back of the pelvis. So spin the fingers, lift the heart, open front body, and then just a gentle hip lift. And if the body will allow, you're coming into a little bit more energetic extension through the front of the hip. So opening through the hip flexors, but also opening through the chest, through the heart. And then the option to open through the throat as well, only if it feels available. Remembering variation 1 is just seated with the heart lifted, and then easing your way down very mindfully, slowly, until we land softly on the pelvis once again. So as we come to second side, it is your left leg in front of your right. We're stacking ear, shoulder, and hip, gently engaging through the core. and inviting that sway. Once again, just exploring movement with breath. The very definition of vinyasa is movement with breath, to move in a sacred, deliberate, mindful way. Taking one more gentle sway from side to side before finding the middle. And once again, if that's feeling too strong, come tall. Option to place hands in front, blocks, pillows, forearms, or perhaps if you did on the first side, lengthening again. Now, whatever leg is in front, we normally will feel that side more into the back of the pelvis. And you might find one side feels much more free and open than the other. Just know that is also perfectly imperfect. Breathing space, releasing tension. As we take 3 more breaths, please. A gentle press into your forearms, your hands to anchor the pelvis. And then at the same time, the contrasting energy of lengthening through the spine as we take one more full breath in and out. When you're ready, let's just gently walk our way back using the core, using the arms for support. And one last time, taking feet in front, spinning the fingertips out so it's a little bit easier on our shoulder joints. And then anchor through the 4 corners of your feet, press fiercely into your hands, and just explore opening through the spine. So upper back and middle back and lower back all moving into extension. And then only if it feels good, a tiny lift, or really taking a moment to work into your strength. As you stamp your feet down, press firmly into your hands, using your hamstrings and your glutes with your core, and only releasing the head back if it feels good. Taking one more full breath in, and then easing yourself down so gently, patiently, mindfully, returning to your seat. I know that I forgot to tell you that we're going to use the couch, so I'm hoping that you have a chair or a couch somewhere nearby. We don't always have bolsters or blocks or even yoga mats, but all of us normally will have a piece of furniture that we can use. So we're going to really tap into our quadriceps and our hip flexors as we use a couch or a chair for support. So I'm going to back myself up. And once I find my feet are against the couch, I will slide my right foot up onto the couch. Now I've already got my pillow positioned so that the knee is supported by the cushion because the floor is not always so comfortable. And then the hardest part of this posture is getting our left leg forward. So let's walk our hands a little bit to the right to create a little more spaciousness so that we can bring our left foot forward. Now, as soon as I do that, I want to allow enough space that I can drop the pelvis forward. And with my hands on the inside of my left foot, or my hands resting on top of my block, I'm going to first check that my knee is right above my ankle and that I'm hugging my knee towards my shoulder to maintain the integrity in the ankle, the knee, and the hip joints. Press into your hands, allow your pelvis to descend, and the more we lift through the heart space and allow the hips to come forward, a little bit more sensation arises in our right hip flexor as well as our quadriceps. Now in this shape, we still want to have a little engagement through the core so that we've got protection for our spine. And then as always, coming back into the awareness of our breathing. Just slow, controlled, and deep. Are your shoulders away from your ears? Are you pressing down in order to lift up? And as we stay and breathe, can you feel just a little bit of tension releasing, one breath at a time? One more full deep breath here. And the only change we're going to make is to take our left hand to our left thigh. So right hand is on the floor or your block. And then we're using, once again, the strength of our arms to create rotation. So we've got hip extension, and we're adding a little bit of spinal rotation. So with the left hand, we're pressing the knee towards the second and the third toe. And at the same time, we're pressing skywards and only looking over your left shoulder if your neck allows. It's fine to keep the neck gazing towards the floor in a more neutral position. But we want to explore all of the ranges of motion that the body is meant to have. So if it feels available, just turn to look over your left shoulder for one more full breath, please. Returning your eyes. And when you're ready, we're going to see if we can just begin to lift ourselves. So if need be, something to hold on to give you a little added support other than just your thigh. And as we press back, we're endeavoring to stack ears, shoulders, and hips. So you might need to make a few little readjustments. Tuck your tailbones so you feel your glutes kick in. And then please scoop a little bit more deliberately into the abdominals, please. So let's take a moment checking hip and knee alignment, and then lifting a little bit more through the heart so that we're creating hopefully just some neutrality in our spine. So we're feeling once again quadriceps and hip flexors. And the more we press back, the more intensity we'll feel, in particular through the quadricep, through your rectus femoris particularly. So find the lift of the heart, the scooping of the belly, and then just see if you can stay for one more full deep breath in and out. With your right hand, just hook that behind your head, turn your elbow out to the side, and keep your left hand supporting you. So not only are we now moving into hip extension, but we're adding a little bit of lateral flexion. So looking to side bend. So you're side bending towards your left to open up through the right side, through the right hip flexor, and add a little bit more zing to the sensation we're feeling. By all means, if it feels better to have your hand resting on something other than your thigh, just using anything that you have at home to give you the support you need. One more full breath here. And on your inhalation, return to the midline, find neutral, and we'll take one last twist here. So right hand coming to left thigh, placing left hand on the curve of your lower back or the top of your pelvis. Just see if you can find a little bit of rotation. At the same time, we're still tucking through the tailbone, energizing through the core, and breathing deeply into that beautiful sensation for 3 more breaths. For 2. 1 more, please, before we return our eye gaze. And on this last one, I'm hoping you can reach back for your couch or your chair. We're shifting forward, so creating a little bit more hip extension. And then as far as your body will allow, we're also creating spinal extension. So much goodness, so much sensation. So feel the tuck of your tailbone. I want your right glutes active. And also the lifting of your pelvic floor, the drawing in of the belly, so your abdominals are active. And then flood the breath in to the hips, to the heart, to the throat, as we take one more full breath in before gently shifting back, crawling back down towards the floor. The hands are coming to the inside of the foot once again. And then walk your hands to the right. It'll just give you more space to release that leg. Once you're there, bring both hands to the midline, bring both feet and knees together, and just sitting back, briefly so that we're releasing. A little gentle sway from side to side. And if your knees and feet or ankles aren't happy in this shape, you can do the exact same thing, just shifting from side to side in your tabletop position. So second side, are we ready? Begin to walk yourself back. And then once you're ready, you'll move your left knee onto your cushion so that your shin is basically right up against your chair or your couch. And then the hard part's getting the right leg forward. So we walk a little bit to the left to create more spaciousness for the right leg to come through. And then once we've achieved that, we're either bringing our hands onto a block, low end, medium, high end, or the hands to the floor. So we want to make our yoga practice work for our bodies. We want it to be therapeutic for our bodies. So taking the modifications, using any props that helps you to find just a really gentle stretch that is therapeutic and nurturing to your bodies. So again, let's check that knee and ankle are aligned. We're energetically hugging right knee into the shoulder to maintain integrity in hip, knee, and ankle. We're pressing down into the floor or our blocks. We're pressing down into our right foot. And we're seeking length through the spine, lightness in the heart, and depth in our breath. If you're okay, stay for another 2 breaths. And just notice, how does this side feel compared to the other? One more smooth, sweet, deep breath in and out before we begin to take some rotation. So we're grounding still into our left hand, and our right hand is coming to our right thigh. So once we've established that, we press down to create the lift in the length, and then we begin to use rotation. So you're using your arms to create some of that rotation, but you are absolutely accessing your abdominal muscles to help you create the rotation while stabilizing the spine. Can you wake up your left glute, glute max in particular? And then finding that gentle lifting of the navel towards the spine that allows us to still fully breathe deeply, sending nutrients, oxygen to every single cell of the body. One more full breath, please, before returning your eye gaze to the earth. And then just take a moment to decide how it's best for you to come up. So really slowly just navigating your way so that we're either taking hands to support us on a coffee table, a wall, or even using the couch behind you. So we just want to find some support so we can really organize our bodies properly. So we're pressing into the right foot to send the torso back. And we're aiming someday to have our ears, our shoulders, and our hips stacking. The core is on, the chest is proud, the breath is deep. And then we're just finding stillness and breath here. So the more we're forward, the more hip extension we're creating, the more we're accessing hip flexors, so your psoas major and your iliacus. And then at the same time, the more we back the body up and come into a neutral position, we're targeting the quadriceps, and in particular, one muscle in your quads called your rectus femoris. Hard working muscle. So belly strong, breath deep, just for 2 more breaths, please. One more, please. And then when you're ready, we just loop the hand behind the head. So from here, we're creating just lateral flexion. So we're opening through side body at the same time that we're opening through the hips. But these movements that combine extension, rotation, lateral flexion, they're medicine for our bodies. And it's the true gift of our yoga practice, these biplanar or triplanar movements. Taking 3 more breaths. How deeply can you breathe into your left lung, that left hip? One more. Before we gently ease our way up and out, rechecking the abdominals, re-engaging through the glutes, before we take that rotation, so hip extension with rotation. So using your left hand on your thigh, using your right hand on the couch or the chair or your hip, just see if you can begin to create a little bit of rotation while still maintaining the breath and the stacking of the shoulders with the hips. So using your arms, using your abdominals as we stay and breathe just for 2 more, please. One more full breath in. And on your exhalation, gently releasing. Our last one is to combine hip extension with spinal extension. So with our hands resting on the couch or the chair, we're beginning to shift the weight forward first. So keeping the abdominals on for support, keeping your left glute active for support. And then once you find the end range to your hip extension, just begin to create some spinal extension as well. However it looks is irrelevant. You are simply checking in and seeing how it's feeling. Does this feel glorious to your body? Therapeutic, nurturing, as you flood the breath into front body, through the hip, through the heart, through the throat, as we take one more full, deep breath in. And when you're ready on the out breath, ease your way back. Slowly, gently help yourself down towards the floor. Walk your hands to the left so that you can gently release that knee. And as we did before, either coming into hero pose by sitting back on your heels and just taking a gentle sway from side to side. Or if it feels better to your knees, your ankles, and your hips, just coming into 4-point kneeling and just moving in any way that feels delightful to your body for 2 more breaths. Please release your effort. And we're coming on to our mat once again. And this is when I would like for you to use your tennis ball or just a rubber handball, massage ball, anything that you have handy. And we're using this to do a little bit of trigger point work, a little self-massage. I'm going to spin this way first so I can find that left hip to begin with. So we're spinal rolling our way down to the floor. And we're taking a moment with our ball resting beside us just to come into a reclining figure 4. So we've opened the hip flexor really beautifully, as well as the quadriceps. We did a tiny bit of work for the back of the pelvis in sitting, but let's just finish with one stretch lying on our backs in a supine position. So we've crossed our left foot over our right thigh, and this might be variation 1. So if you're feeling a stretch, by pressing your left hand into your left thigh, please stay right there. Option 2, threading through. And as we thread through, drawing the toes back, just to activate the muscles above the ankle and below the knee, just helps to bring a little bit of stability to the joint. And through this right side, we want to just lift our heads for a moment to check hip, knee, and ankle in one line. That swaying motion you used at the beginning of your practice in a seated position, I'd like for you to invite that movement back into your body now. So as we rock, we access and feel kind of different lines of fibers within the body, different lines of muscular fibers within the pelvis. Just taking 2 more gentle movements with a single breath before you find your stillness and release your right foot to the floor. Now maintain that shape with your left foot on top, and with your tennis ball, with your handball, with just any little rubber ball, we're going to pick up the pelvis and place it underneath the fleshy part of the hip. This looks a little weird, but it is so wonderful, I'm telling you. So stretching alone quite often isn't enough, especially with glute med. So glute med is the main stabilizer for your pelvis, and it is a hard-working muscle. So we place the ball just to the outside of the hip, and then we're just rocking gently. And I'm rocking until I find a really lovely trigger point feeling, so a knot. And then I'm going to stay on that knot, and I'm just going to rock from side to side until I feel like it's released a little bit. Now that could take 30 seconds. It could take 2 minutes. But when I feel like it's eased off a little bit, I'm going to pick up the pelvis, I'm going to move the ball slightly, and then I'm just searching for another knot, another trigger point. So trigger points are intense, but they're nothing sinister. It's just a tight spot in the muscle. And quite often stretching does not really relieve those trigger points. So if you can, if you have time, the combination of doing stretches with a little bit of self-massage work is so beneficial for the body. It's so therapeutic for the body, and it's so simple. So I want you to be uncomfortably comfortable as you find a beautiful trigger point to hold your awareness, to hold your attention as you gently rock and roll slightly from side to side. It's like you're kneading the muscle, just gently, gently kneading the muscle. And as I stay here, the intensity of the spot begins to fade. And that's normally when I would begin to search for a new spot to work through. So normally you would spend maybe 5 minutes every second day doing a little bit of self-treatment. So any place we have muscle in the body, it's safe to do some trigger point work. We don't normally work right on the spine, but even just along the side of the spine. But always talking to your healthcare professional if you're working with any pathology, any injuries. Come back to the middle. Let's uncross. And I'm going to spin around, but you're welcome to move straight into your figure 4 on the other side. So it will be your right leg crossing over your left. And then variation 1, we're just pressing this hand into the thigh. So if you've had a posterior hip replacement, this shape is contraindicated for you, but you would definitely be working with an orthopedic surgeon and a healthcare professional to guide you. So variation 1, if you're feeling a good stretch, we stay there. And then variation 2, you're threading through. You're drawing the toes back to engage the muscles between the ankle and the knee that help to stabilize. And then we're checking that our hip, knee, and ankle on the left are aligned beautifully. And then we're softening through our head, relaxing through our shoulders before we invite a gentle sway from side to side. So finding the option that honors your body and knowing that there's nothing static about our bodies. Everything about us is dynamic. So just knowing that from day to day, some things will feel wonderful and some other days you'll just need to choose another variation. Celebrating the fact that you're on your mat. One more breath with movement before we find our stillness. And on your next exhalation, you'll gently release through your left foot, but you're going to leave your right leg on top, your ball just beside you. You'll pick up the pelvis. You'll slide the ball onto the fleshy part of your hip and on the outer sweep of it. So not in the middle, a little bit more to the outside, the lateral edge. And then we begin the exploration through the right hip. So glute med lives a little bit more on the outside of the hip. And as I was saying, it's a hard-working muscle. It is such a hard-working muscle. And sometimes stretching alone just isn't enough. So as I roll slightly to my side, I am finding some wonderful spots. It's like a choir of angels singing to me suddenly. So a trigger point, again, feels quite intense, but it's nothing sinister. It's nothing serious. It's just a knot in the muscle that develops when the muscle sometimes is either overworked or sometimes when we're doing new things that we've never done before. It can also develop a trigger point just from different activities, new activities. So we're finding a knot, and you'll know it when you find it. And then you're just gently rocking the body, just kneading the muscle, just like you're having a massage or a physio or an osteo treatment. You know when they have found a trigger point, and then they just normally mobilize, sort of a rocking sensation. And if it's too intense, please don't pursue it. This takes time. So if there's a deep-seated knot there, it may not release in 30 seconds. It may not release the second time you do this, or the third, or the fourth. But if we keep coming back to these areas, just like our stretches, we develop a little bit more freedom. So every second day, maybe for 5 minutes, just doing a little bit of self-massage through your glute med, through your glute max, anything in the back of the body, back of the hip that has trigger points or little knots in it. And just a loving reminder, we don't come directly onto joints normally, pardon me, the spine, but it's safe to do a little bit of self-massage work any place there's muscle, which is virtually everywhere in the body. But the hips in particular hold a lot of tension. So doing a little bit of self-treatment, a little bit of self-massage, a little bit of self-love is very therapeutic for the body. I think we better call it quits there. So hopefully feeling a little bit more free and open through the pelvis. Taking a moment just to let your legs lengthen, just to really feel how the body is feeling. And connecting the breath to this sense of vitality, this sense of renewal, but that beautiful contrasting energy that our yoga practice brings. We feel energized, but tranquil. We feel vitality in our body, but we feel calmness as well. Just stay for 2 more breaths. One more, please. Before you begin to bring a little bit of movement to your fingers, your toes, your wrists, your ankles, and then bending your knees one at a time, gathering your knees to your hearts, taking a gentle, gentle rock from side to side before rolling towards me, pausing for a single breath before pressing the earth away. And our practice comes full circle as we meet in Sukhasana. Hands to our hearts, closing down the eyes just for a moment. And please bow your chin towards your chest, just in a gesture of respect for our bodies, for this lifetime, for each other, and the practice of yoga that we share. From my heart to yours, namaste.